Ladies and gentlemen, in case you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that one of my journeys in life, one of my quests in life, is to achieve the Grandmaster title. If you don't know that, because you haven't watched enough of my videos, that is one of my goals, that is one of my quests in life, to achieve the Grandmaster title. I'm far away, and I'm old, so it's going to be difficult. But I'm always fascinated, and I always like to bring these stories to you of ongoing chess prodigies and how they are developing into grandmasters, because there's no other higher title in chess other than world champion. One of those prodigies who's chasing that grandmaster title is Faustino Oro. He's an Argentinian kid, like literally kid. He's 11 years old. And the two games that I'm going to show you in this video are part of a tournament that he just finished here, actually, in Spain. I just so happen to be in Spain on vacation right now, hence it looks like I'm recording in Grandma's house. But he played a tournament in Menorca, which is an island here in Spain, and he had an amazing performance. He is now 50 rating points, roughly, away from the Grandmaster title. He's only 11 years old, and I'll be sharing two wins with you against Grandmasters that he had. Now, one thing is, you also have to achieve something called a norm. A long time ago, I made a video called How to Become a Chess Grandmaster, How to Lead People to a Treasure I Cannot Possess. He's very close. And I mean, he just has to get those norms. Whether he can get them and set a world record to become the youngest Grandmaster of all time, maybe, we will see. And if I'm a little bit low energy, I've just been getting crushed by seasonal allergies and travel and jet lag and all that stuff. So I'll show you two games. He had the white pieces in both these games. One was against the Russian, one was against the Polish Grandmaster. So in this first game, Faustino opened with d4. He actually plays everything. So in the next game, he played e4 and d4. Like, it's crazy that he's 11 years old, but he already plays two major openings at a Grandmaster level. Black in this game played knight f6, all normal, c4, e6, knight f3, and now d5. So we have a queen's gambit declined. You will basically see this all the time at the international master and grandmaster level. These are two very, very major systems. And now after the move knight c3, black has a million different responses. But in this game, Faustino just took on d5 because this removes a lot of things that black can play. And after pawn takes d5, knight c3, now black is playing an exchange, queen's gambit declined. A lot of people are doing this, including in the world championship between Ding and Gukesh. I think Gukesh had the white pieces. He played like some obscure queen c2. In this game, though, Jan Malik played bishop to e7. What's funny is that if you look at Jan Malik, he spent 10 minutes on this move. Now, maybe he took a bathroom break, but I actually think that he maybe had something in mind after knight f3, d5, and when Faustino went for this, black just somehow wasn't expecting it. So he plays bishop e7, which is a normal move. White plays bishop to f4, and now black has a lot of options here. Black can castle, black can play c5, c6, whatever, but he plays knight to h5. So he plays a move which is obviously very obscure, trying to target this bishop. And Faustino now can move the bishop to e5. He can also move it back to d2, just sort of get it out of the way and argue that this knight is a little bit dumb. But he does something else. He does something kind of edgy. He plays the move e3. And why do I call this edgy? I mean, it's just very non-standard. Like, if you don't have to give up a bishop, you shouldn't give up the bishop, right? Like, you should probably move it. But he's deliberately trying to play a different type of pawn structure. For more advanced and intermediate players, this is a pretty useful pawn structure to know in the Queen's Gambit positions, because even though it doubles your pawns and it leaves your pawn here isolated, you have a very good control of the center, and also your e-file is open for your rook later. Jan Malik doesn't really overcomplicate anything here. He plays knight takes f4, although he does spend another 10 minutes deciding whether to take the bishop, which I find quite hilarious. Because it's like, it just shows you, like in chess, you can calculate a lot of different things. And now black needs to make another decision. Does he castle? Does he play c6, c5? Like, c5 now probably makes less sense, as this pawn would just be weak. White here probably wants to play bishop e2, bishop d3, or even g3 and bishop g2 followed by castling, playing a knight to the center. He does play, though, bishop g4. Now, one thing about Faustino, which I really appreciate, is that even though he's little, like literally, physically and by age, he plays pretty fast. Like, he sort of has that, like, he has like an old man chess game, but he's actually just 11 years old. Like, he doesn't tank too much. He doesn't think too much. he just sort of plays on vibes. He plays bishop e2. And maybe here was actually one of the moments in the opening that he spent a long time, because I'm sure he was looking at different queen ideas to move out. He probably also was like looking at just h3 straight up, just trying to get him to take. Also g3 and bishop g2. He opts for bishop e2. Black takes. And I think black does this basically because there was no good future for that bishop, and that knight was going to move to the middle. And now we have the move c6. So the position here is equal. But there is enough of an imbalance that we have a game. First of all, the bishops are on opposite colors. Second of all, we have, obviously, white has doubled f-pawns and a weak central pawn here. White can create something here called a minority attack, which is when you use a 3 on 4 pawn structure on the queen side without a c-pawn, and then you play like this. And the point is that you target your opponent's pawns, which makes their center pawn weak. So there's plenty of life in the position. Now here what's funny is that rather than castling, the computer prefers that white play g3, king f1, king g2. Faustino, though, is a normal person and is not, using an engine during the games, so he castles. I don't really understand the difference. Like, I don't know why anybody in their right mind here would play king f1 over the board. Like, if anything, you would start with g3. Playing king f1 here is heinous, but castles, and obviously black doesn't overcomplicate castles. And now we're going to see. We're going to see how Faustino plays. This is one of the only plans that I really see in the position, but of course the second that you try to set it up, black is also going to fight back. He's not going to let you implement that plan. But these 3 pawns are very annoying. They make it very difficult for this bishop to exist, and obviously you're not going to generate any sort of attack. Maybe this knight will route to c5 or to e5. Let's go. Queen d3. Excuse me, just a general improving move. Looking to maybe connect the rooks, or, maybe Jan Malik will blunder checkmate. That is one thing. Obviously this bishop is not particularly strong. Black plays a5. This is a good move, stopping white from doing the minority attack. And Faustino plays rook a d1. Okay, so he doesn't even play rook a b1. He plays rook a d1, adding a little bit of support here. I wonder what the idea is. Black plays bishop d6. We don't have to think too much about this move. g3 played here in less than 1 minute by Faustino. We knew that this was going to happen a long time ago. If this knight could teleport to e5, it would be really nice. Having said that, even if it teleports to e5, black has f6. So black's position is very solid. It's a very, very solid position, very good position. Black plays knight d7. He's finishing up his development. Now, what are we doing here? Are we going to still go for this? I don't really think so, because we already moved our rook to the middle. Faustino just plays king g2, which is exactly why the computer wanted to do it the other way. The computer just wanted to play king f1, king g2, leave the rook there, and maybe even use the h-pawn. It's very normal in positions like this for computers to just use their flank pawns to either take space or potentially sacrifice the flank pawn to open up their opponent's position. So you'll see in many positions h4 is going to get played. Rook e8, and there we go. Faustino is actually very experienced despite only being 11, and he knows this. Like, he knows that h4 here is a very good move. It takes space, it takes away the opponent's prospects, and maybe you have h5, h6 in the future. And Malik plays queen b6. The pawn is hanging, so Faustino defends it. Still, though, it's very difficult here for either side to make a whole lot of progress, especially with their pawns, because what do you do? I mean, black can't play c5. The d5 pawn hangs. White really doesn't have much of an attack of his own. What is going to happen? The knight goes to f8, looking to route backwards. Now Faustino plays the move h5. So, like I already said, this is just useful. It's useful because, first of all, the bishop is protecting it, so the pawn is not really a weakness, but you take away knight g6, and maybe you'll go h6 in the future. Just maybe. Black is faced with a very difficult decision at that point. Go here, which leaves the pawn there forever, restricting space, right? Taking away opportunities from black. Or you take it, which is horrible because you open up your king and you suddenly have a huge weakness, which is why Jan Malik here plays h6 himself. Okay. Now Faustino plays bishop g4. This kind of prevents the black knight from re-entering the game in a way that it would. If knight to e6, maybe we take it in the future. But for now, rook e7, obviously looking to double up the rooks. Now, how is a young 11-year-old kid going to outplay a grandmaster from this position? Well, first he's going to move the knight backwards 2 squares, right? At the end of the day, he's going to try to get that knight back into the game in a little bit of a more active manner. So now b3. Okay, maybe not the best, but still not obvious how black is going to take advantage. Knight f6, knight e4 potentially. All right, let's see. Jan Malik seems to have gotten the better of the position here. He's obviously playing a little bit more coordinated chess. Like, he has the e-file. His knight got to a really useful square. But okay, Faustino just goes back to the e2 and maybe to c3 as well. And black can't really do anything. Right? It's one of those positions that, black can sort of play forever, white can play forever, but not much is going to happen. Rook d3. bishop a7, rook a1. And Faustino seemingly has gotten it. He's like, okay, I have to go create play on this side of the board. There's nothing I can do. I mean, maybe g4, g5, but that looks a little bit insane. Black is preventing him from doing what he wants. He plays rook b1, and now b4 would trap the queen. So the queen has to leave. It does leave. Now Faustino plays a3. Only one guy has momentum here. It looks like Black set up a really nice setup. He's going to go knight e4, but White's position is completely rock solid. White doesn't have anything in the position that is not guarded, except this pawn. But you can't take it because of b4. So the queen goes back again, and suddenly the momentum completely changes. Momentum completely changes. It looked like Black had reached a really nice position, but Faustino now starts mobilizing on that side of the board. That's the side of the board that I have been talking about. By the way, b5 is coming. If Black plays b5 himself, he drastically weakens the c6 pawn and the c5 square. So, knight to e4. b5, there it is. I mean, that's a free pawn. But if you take it, you double your b pawns and they become isolated and weak. And also, if you take it, the d5 pawn becomes weak. So what is Black going to do? He goes back to d6. He's asking White, what are you doing with this pawn? Faustino plays pawn takes c6. Now these pawns are gone. The rooks can go to work on the A, B, and C files, and Black has a weakness. So basically a perfectly executed minority attack. Getting here was a little bit slow, however. Now, rook a3 targeting the bishop, and now basically it's open season. I mean, you're going to start putting pressure on Black, and Jan Malik plays a very nice move here. Rook takes e2, but he's down to 5 minutes. Faustino, like I said, plays old man chess. He plays fast. He puts the pressure. Knight takes d4. Queen goes to a4, attacking the bishop because White's bishop is hanging too. And now Black here has to take like this. And the point is that then he needs to bring the queen to g4 and try to create counterplay against White's king, and the computer evaluates the position as equal, but this is a bad move. Made with 150 on the clock. Faustino put grown man pressure on his opponent. 18 minutes versus 150, and ultimately his opponent blunders. He plays a very natural move, right? Very natural, looking to just come here. But now he's losing. Why is he losing? Not because of queen takes d4, but because of rook b8 check, king h7, and now this. His opponent simply forgot that before taking the knight, White's rook would get out of danger. He just forgot about it. He thought, I'm attacking the rook, I have check incoming, but he blunders this in time trouble, and now he's simply down a rook, and a beautiful final move from Faustino Oro played in 30 seconds. You can take my queen, but checkmate is unstoppable, courtesy of the pawn. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that nuts? Like, the same pawn that he moved h4, h5 actually plays a role in weaving a checkmate net around the Black king. This is really instructive stuff. It shows you why in these types of positions where, you know, your same side castled, actually using the flank pawn to gain space with h4, h5 could be so useful in the long run. It is like, it's incredible how some of the last few years of chess have shown us this, and mostly it is pioneered. It's an engine idea. I mean, it happens also in some human games, but it's mostly pioneered by computers. And now we are just, we're just copying what they do. That was one win. The next opponent that he beat is actually an even better opponent. I think this person is younger than Jan Malik. I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think Sava's like young Grandmaster, maybe 20 max. But I'm actually not sure. 25-50 FIDE, obviously very good. And this one, e4, e5. Okay, now that last game, Faustino played at 97.5% accuracy. This game, Faustino plays at 98.3%. 2 wins against GMs. Dude is 11 years old. At the moment, if he became a GM today, he'd be the youngest Grandmaster in history by a long shot. So he still has time, and he's obviously playing exceptional chess. We have a Spanish. This is a mainline Spanish. D3 is a sideline. The most common move there is to play rook e1 and try to play d4 in one go by playing c3. But okay, there's different Spanishes. And d6, and now a4. Whatever this is with d3 and a4 is just some sort of line that I guess prevents Black from getting to play d5. And also maybe White will play knight c3 in the future. Sava plays rook b8. That just gets the rook off the file. We have pawn takes, pawn takes. We've had similar positions in World Championship matches between Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi, in case any of you care. And anybody watching this that's 500, you don't have to worry about that. Knight c3. I already said this move. Obviously, the idea here is that you play d3, you did not go c3, whereas normally you play rook e1, h3, c3, and you try to play d4 in one go while defending your pawn with the rook. This time you play knight c3 because you have long-term ideas of getting to d5, and maybe you can play bishop g5 as well. Sava castles, h3, prevents the pin, prevents counterplay, and now Black has to make some sort of a decision. This is the position ultimately that Faustino goes for, and if you check the database, many games have reached here, h6, bishop e6 being the 2 most popular moves, okay? And that is exactly what Sava plays h6. Now we have rook e1. Rook e1 obviously defends the pawn, and in the future, you could potentially go d4. It's just a general improving move. I think actually, if you look at the database, Rook e1 is probably seldom played. Black plays Rook e8, and Faustino implements the game plan, which is to put the knight on the d5 square to target Black's position. Taking here is probably fine, although it was not the move that was played in the game, and actually going bishop to f8 is also fine. And I think, yeah, bishop f8 is the most popular move still. Black goes here, and now white has a couple of different options. The computer loves bishop d2. It finds it to be very flexible because in the future you can put the bishop on c3, but the major idea that it really wants is to play c4. That's the other benefit of on move 6 playing the d3 Spanish, is that you're going to play knight c3, knight d5, and ultimately secure that knight with the c4 pawn, which is not normally what you do, which is why in this position, Faustino plays the move c4. He has a very nice bind here. The c file could open up, and actually you could bring both rooks. You could bring a rook on c and a rook on a, and this is a very different Spanish than many Spanishes. Like many Spanishes are decided in the center or on the king side. This is obviously just a totally different flavor. B takes c4, and now d takes c4 on the board. So we have these two pawns versus this pawn. If we trade down in the future, maybe the b pawn will actually be very useful for white to not just put pressure on the black position, but to break through and to maybe even make a queen, you know? That is very possible. Also, the bishop can go to c3, putting pressure, and then c5 comes in. Just like the minority attack of the previous game, Faustino can use the outside pawn to weaken the center, right? He did that in the previous game. Bishop back to d7. A lot of different ideas here, namely taking becomes possible, but also just a flexible move. Maybe black will move some pieces backwards and I'll try to play for c6. All right. Trying to get the knight out of the way, and Faustino plays bishop c3. So far, Faustino has implemented the ideas of the position, the ideas of the opening masterfully. Like, honestly, masterfully. I'm learning from this. Because I don't know a lot about the d3 Spanish. I know about, obviously, c3, like the mainline Spanish. I've never seen the Spanish, but actually, after this game, I very well could play it myself. I'm very interested in this d3 type of position, going for the knight d5 idea. Black takes. Faustino can actually take with both pawns here. He takes like this. Black goes back to e7, and we see the space advantage forming, right? And the same pawn. In the previous game, after that trade around move 32, the pawn back there became weak. Well, in this game, the pawn back there is going to become weak, which might make that pawn weak, which might make that pawn weak. And if the black center is weak, we might even launch an attack. Now, black's counterplay here is not very clear. One pawn break to potentially consider is c6, but that plays directly into white's hands. Another pawn break to consider is f5, but that drastically weakens the black king and the squares around the king. It's really not clear what black is going to play here, which is why Faustino now opts to trade the light-squared bishop. This bishop now is going to relinquish a lot of defensive control over the light squares. It's maybe not the best move. Maybe he could have played rook a7, but I think Faustino just just didn't think that this bishop was going to play an important role because it was going to be stuck behind the pawn. And now Sava does what a lot of grandmasters do. He plays f5. f5 is the roll of the dice. You have absolutely no idea. You are not in control of the position when you play f5. It feels like the right move to play, but it's very, very bold. It's very bold. It weakens a lot of stuff. It's a very double-edged move. Could have been much more prudent here to maybe play c6. Defended by the bishop and the knight, then you're going to take in the middle. And one thing about this move f5, just so you understand, it actually becomes much more powerful if you do this in the position. If white doesn't have this pawn here and only has this, and this weakness is gone, it's not the best move here, but f5 actually becomes much more possible. g5, stuff like this. But again, the computer just wants to go for the weakness. It obviously just wants to win a pawn. It's pretty self-explanatory. So f5 on the board. Now we have a spicy position, okay? Faustino takes on f5. Black takes on a4, queen a4, knight f5. Like I already told you. A lot of light squared weaknesses, and if you just strictly think about the move f5 from a positional standpoint, how can black afford to go for that? How can black afford to weaken the light squares further and potentially make the position double-edged when 5 of 5 of their pawns are on the same color complex as the bishop? It's a very risky strategy, right? Very risky. But experienced grandmasters play like this. They take these risks at certain moments of the position because they are trying to win the game. Queen c4, rook b7, rook a6. Let me tell you, I have played Faustino probably I've played him many, many times. I played a match against him once, but also I've played him just in casual games, and he loves these types of positions. He loves positions where he can effortlessly put some pressure and put pieces on right squares. So rook a6 is played, and now bishop takes e5. He goes for a crazy tactical sequence here against his opponent. He could have probably played rook c6 or even g4. And the idea of g4 is to simply trade the knight and then continue to put pressure. But he spots a tactic. Bishop takes e5. If pawn takes, there's d6 check, and rook takes e5, both as big threats. The best move for black after bishop takes e5 is to play queen f7 and just go down a pawn. The computer says queen f7, bishop c3, rook e1, knight e1, or bishop e1. And black is just the pawn down, but he's going to put pressure on this. It's actually kind of hard to defend because if rook a5, black has this move c5. And I think this is what maybe Sava missed. Maybe. I don't know. Haven't spoken to Sava. c5 is a crazy move because en passant is there, but then the queen would hang, and now you can't defend your center pawn. That's a pretty nasty combination. Sava, though, goes here, and after rook takes e5, black simply cannot defend everything in the position. And Faustino, on top of being very good positionally and having patience and liking to improve position slowly, is a monster tactically. Like, that is ultimately the cherry on top when you are this young and this good. Queen f7. Now we trade rook e8. If queen e8, d6 discover check, right? It's coming. And so how does white win? By playing dc and just simply clearing out the position, right? And being a square away from promotion. Black has to go back. And now knight e5. And black is on the ropes. Knight f7 check is there whenever you want it. Rook e6 idea is giving up the rook for the knight and making a second queen anytime you want it. And once again, it's the h-pawn for Faustino that is deciding these games. There's no back rank checkmates anywhere, right? Knight e5, black goes rook b2. There would have been back rank checkmate threats, but the king is always going to h2. Rook e6. Rook e7 is a threat. Knight g6 is a threat. And after this, you simply make the second queen. And your king is always going to h2. The h-pawn for the second game in a row is the hero. Queen c8, trying to defend everything. And now you sacrifice the rook, of course. Knight g6 check is next. You're going to take this bishop, and then you're going to promote by removing the queen. Sava going for counterplay. By the way, never too late to blunder a checkmate. Never too late. But we ended in style. Not only a defensive move, X-ray defending your pawn on f2 via the queen, also an offensive move. Black plays rook b1 check, king to h2, takes with check, and f4. The queen is hanging, the bishop is hanging, but honestly, more than anything else, you're about to promote a second queen and then lead a devastating attack onto your opponent. And for the second game in a row that I'm showing you, only 2 games, I suppose that's kind of a silly way to phrase it. By the end of the game, Faustino has 25 minutes to 1. And in this game, by the end of it, he had 19 minutes to 1. He's so fast. He's so fast, and he's playing 2,500 rated Grandmasters in their 20s who are going to be very, very good themselves. These are very, very good contenders for the World Junior Championships. These are good contenders for the 2,600 level and probably higher, and they all have high ceilings. And he's playing them, and he's winning, and it's very impressive. And at the end of the tournament, which finished today, he got 6 out of 9. He gained 18 rating points to be up to 24. I think he played a tournament previously as well. He might be up to 2450. He only lost 1 game. He lost 1 game to Liu Shanglei, who's a very experienced Grandmaster from China. And he's the only one that managed to beat Faustino. And even in this game, for a brief moment, Faustino might have had some chances. He might have had some advantage. It was a very complicated game, and he just chose the wrong way to castle, and it kind of went downhill. But Faustino Oro is 11 years old, and his rating is like 2450. And dude, I think has 1 GM norm already. He almost got one. He needed to win the last round of the tournament today. If he did, I would have included it, but he only drew. Had he won that game, he would have had a GM norm, maybe even 2 already, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken. He might have been close. And 2450. So we could be looking at the youngest Grandmaster in history soon. Give it like, he has probably around 7 months to break the record. And he very well could pull it off because he's so close and he's already 50 rating points away. And he's obviously not stopping anytime soon. So incredible stuff. I will continue to bring more storylines. One other storyline from this tournament I'll be making a video on quite soon is Ivanchuk, who is a legend of the game in his 50s. And I think has not lost in like 60 games. It's like completely insane. He's played maybe 3 or 4. I don't know. He's on some ridiculous streak where he has like, not 60, but like 40 or 30. He's like 17 wins and like, 15 draws or something. He's undefeated and his rating is back to 2650. So it's just incredible. So I will be sharing that with you as well. Tickets for the European tour, link is in the description. Get them. I'm also excited to announce that for Brussels, one guest is coming who you might you might know about, especially French community. Julian Song will be joining also in Brussels. So we have 3 guests. We'll have Anna Kramling, we'll have Julian, and we will have my wife, Lucy, in case it hasn't been clear through the previous videos. So going to be a very fun first show, and I'm looking forward to the other ones. Get out of here.